world. It's real easy to distrust everyone and everything. But if you don't check it, you can seriously isolate yourself. And that's not good. What up, Black man? Welcome to the Beneficial Black Man podcast, where we focus on helping Black men to overcome mediocrity to become beneficial for their community by discussing faith, creativity, personal development, and mental and emotional health management. I'm your host, Jamal Calpin. How y'all doing? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're protecting your mental. Hope you're finding time for an emotional release valve. And you're striving to become beneficial day by day, moment by moment, to the best of your ability. Yeah. So cynicism is something that I wrestle with. And in this episode, I want to talk about like doing some reflection on myself, figuring out where that kind of came from, and trying to give some advice that I'm working through and trying to apply for myself because I think we live in a very cynical age. We live in a very cynical society at this point, especially with technology and with the internet. It's real easy to start to doubt and distrust everything, whether it's government, whether it's religion, whether it's people in general. It's really really easy to do that. But before we get into the episode, need to do the mental check-in. This is something I'm going to start reincorporating into the episode because I think it's important to be transparent with you all as I'm on my journey to become a beneficial man, to become a beneficial Black man. And I don't want y'all to think like I got it all together. Like I'm striving and struggling through this process every day, just like the rest of you all. And I want you to know that, like the thought I had before while I was preparing for this episode, I was thinking, sometimes even I don't think I am, but in churches and stuff like that, people see the pastor or the elder and they think they're like almost untouchable. Like they've gotten to a place of maturity that they almost like they're not human anymore. And that's not the case. That is not the case here. Like I I struggle. It's actually a challenge to want to be better. Want to be better. Not because I don't desire to do it, but because I'm human and it's difficult. And we live in a world full of chaos. We live in a world full of sin and temptations and things that don't want you to be your best self, that doesn't want you to be who God has called you to be, doesn't want you to live for glory and for good. It doesn't want you to benefit other people. We live in a society that is very, very selfish and very, very self-centered. And so to push against that, push against those notions, to push against those ideas and those beliefs, and then choose like, no, I actually want to be my best self so that I can serve and bless others is counterintuitive, even though that's like the original design of why we're here. So yes, I want to share where I am, my mental check-in, and committing to doing that weekly on this podcast, is sharing where I am and how I'm growing on this journey. And hopefully that'll encourage you to keep striving and keep doing. And as we're learning together, we can better our community as Black men, you know? So mental check-in, we're going to do high, low, and then what have I been creating? Because again, creating, having an emotional release valve, putting things out into the world, producing things is important and is part of our design, I believe. And it helps us to be healthy in regards to managing our mental and emotional well-being. So we'll start with the high. The high is one of the last streams that I did. I was playing video games, which was really fun, actually. Even though the stream was a struggle, the audio was all the way jacked up, but I fixed it afterwards. I did some troubleshooting or whatever. So next time I do it, it should be a whole lot better. That's the plan. That's the hope. Because although it was very fun, and thank you all for showing up and supporting me and helping me know that things were off. It was fun to do, and I'm glad I was able to do it. The low. Okay, so the low is when I get stressed, I sometimes overeat and turn to alcohol and drinking to sometimes kind of medicate myself. And it's something that I've been dealing with not for a very long time. Like I'm not an alcoholic. That's usually what alcoholics say, right? I'm not an alcoholic or anything like that, but it's sometimes it's an escape. And I think God is funny in the way that, certain things that may work for other people, it just doesn't work for you. That's kind of how it is and has always been for me. So even though I try, it doesn't work and it doesn't help. Either one, drinking or overeating, it doesn't help. It just makes me feel bad. It makes me feel worse. And that's the low. Like, I should have been making more efforts to have an emotional release valve to doing something creative. And I kind of did that, like still journaling. I vlogged a lot this week, which helps me. Is another form of journaling for me. But I still, kind of turn to it as an escape. And I just realized I just can't do it anymore. Like, that's something that I can't turn to. And it's not going to help me to become who I believe I'm supposed to be. And it has nothing to, it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with like idea of being pure or whatever, but it hinders me from being my best self. Um, I need to be of sober mind. And then also like physically, like my body needs to be in the best shape that it needs to be. Like I would be so mad at myself 20 years from now. I had like liver disease or something like that, or liver failure because I kept drinking or turning to alcohol. Like it just doesn't, it's not good. And I know like one drink here or there, maybe when you're hanging out with friends to give like that social lubricant. I get that concept, but I think I want to establish a higher standard for myself. Like I want to be socially lubricant without being under the influence or having intoxicants in my life. Like I just want to be and be comfortable enough to be more transparent and authentic and fun and present with people without having to like distract myself or put things in place to get rid of my inhibitions. I think you can have a great time being sober. I think you can have a great time and be fun and enjoy your life without those things. And I don't want to medicate myself. Like I don't want to do that. Like I don't want to avoid. I don't want to use those things to one run away from problems and also to harm my body. Because I think overeating and overeating and drinking too much is a form of self harm, in my opinion. Like alcohol really is like a poison. And so if you're drinking a lot of it, you're poisoning your system. And then overeating, like your body only needs so much to be okay. And I don't want to self harm myself. Um, I can't remember if those are terms or phrases that are flagged on YouTube, but we're going for it. So that's a low that I was turning to that, like dealing with stress. It's just not good. And I try not to beat myself up about it, but I know I have a higher standard that I'm called to and that I need to do better. And I just got to keep working at it. So yeah, that's the high, low. And then creating. What I've been having a fun time doing creatively is I have a audiobook that I'm working on actually. So I do voiceover work. I have an audiobook that I'm doing. It's a young adult fiction book, which which is kind of fun. It's really fun actually doing it because I'm narrating the story and playing all the characters and stuff like that. It's interesting because I haven't read a young adult fiction book in a very very long time. So reading it and it's like almost romance sort of, and it's like, what is this? This is crazy, and it's just really really crazy stuff. I don't want to give the story away or whatever, but when it's finished, maybe I'll share the link somewhere. So if you're interested in the book, you can check it out. But yeah, that's been really fun. Like I enjoy acting, and that's something that when I get the opportunity to do it, I like doing it. Even though I don't think I'm that good at it, I want to get better at it. That is, I do want to go to school for it, like get training ultimately so that I can be a better communicator. That's if I was to go to acting school, if I was to take acting, go to like acting seminars, it would ultimately be for me to become a better communicator so I can be more entertaining and engaging and more effective at sharing this message to help and serve other people. That's That would be the reason behind it. So yes, that's it. That's for that mental check-in. The high, the low, and then what are you doing to kind of like process and move around and stuff. So yeah, those are the things. And I would encourage you, black man, make sure you're taking time to do your mental check-in. Like, what's your high? Even if it's just weekly. What's been the high every week? What's been the low every week? And what are you doing creatively so that you're uh, applying the emotional release valve and making sure you're having time to create? Because very often, us not creating, us not producing things, I believe hinders us from being well. And we need that for our mental and emotional well being and so that we can be our most beneficial self. All right. So, how I think I became cynical. First thing, I think I grew up, it sounds really weird, but I grew up distant from like healthy human relationships and examples. What do I mean by that? So, my regular consumption of entertainment was cartoons. Anything animated, I was watching for the most part. So that's Looney Tunes, your classic old school like Nickelodeon shows, old school Cartoon Network shows. I wasn't really a big Disney fan. Nothing against Disney, nothing against people who really like Disney. Disney TV stuff didn't really work for me. And so yes, I'm aware of like some Toon Disney shows that were okay, like Goof Troop, Darkwing Duck, DuckTales. What's that one? Tailspin. I'm aware of them. I just didn't watch them that much. I watched things I probably shouldn't have been watching, like Ren and Stimpy, Invader Zim, Angry Beavers. Eventually, around middle school, I started watching South Park stuff. Shouldn't be watching that. Or like Simpsons, Family Guy, Futurama, all that stuff. Anyways, I was watching lots and lots of lots of cartoons. So again, Looney Tunes, that range kind of stuff, right? And looking back, I find it interesting that I believe a lot of people um, gain like social cues and relationship understandings from entertainment. Is that good? I don't know. Is it bad? I don't know. But I just think it's true. So if you're watching uh like 90s sitcoms and stuff like that, whether it's like Fresh Prince, Family Matters, um, any other show that you want to stick in there, one, you're looking at people, right? You're looking at people that look like you or at least look human, and they're using real life, somewhat real life examples and scenarios and showing you how to navigate them. So if there's problems in school, you're dealing with a bully or somebody has they're dating somebody and relationship kind of stuff. You have all of these examples that you can look to and you can resonate with that can help you like, oh, I can see this in real life or this prepares me for that kind of stuff. I didn't have any of that stuff. And in hindsight, I realized I wish I did because I think it would have better prepared me for like it helps me even in a weird way. I think it helps you develop emotional intelligence, which this is just kind of a tangent. I don't know if this generation has the same thing. I don't keep up with, you know, um, current TV shows and stuff like that. But I think a lot of the shows from the 90s, even if it's like basic stuff, not basic stuff, but like the Power Rangers or whatever, right? I think there was an intention to share things that can actually teach lessons that could benefit people and try to help them to be better human beings. I could be wrong, but I don't know if there are a lot of healthy examples of that. I feel like once there was a turn into reality TV, things started getting really, really crazy and not necessarily created in a way to help, particularly children or, teens, young adults, whatever, to mature. But it was really just entertainment, it was distraction. And it actually probably led into stuff like cynicism. So that's one thing, not having healthy human relationships and examples. Of course, I lived in a family. I have an older sister. I have friends. So I was developing relationships. But again, like only having cartoons and animation and these false realities as a framework, a constant framework, it limits how I learned how to deal with conflict, or how I learned how to deal with people or trusting people. And I think that leads into the second point of developing a fear of being hurt and double crossed by people. So I think part of me growing up that way, it kind of led to me being very, very gullible. And, once you start growing up and getting around other people, people take advantage of that. People people take advantage of those who are gullible or really, really easily influenced. And there have been a couple of times for me, whether it's in elementary school, middle school, and I think eventually into like high school, it started going down. But people take advantage of your feelings, of your emotions, of your excitement, and turn it against you, and it hurts. And when that happens, you start to distrust people. You start to, at least for me, I started to put up walls for particular things. Like, no, you can't come in here. I can't share this with you. I can only be open, but so much, because I don't know what you're gonna do with my heart. I don't know what you're gonna do with my thoughts. I don't know what you're gonna do with my ideas. Like, I just don't trust you. And I think also the older I get, I started watching more mature content, which probably isn't good. Like, the way I sometimes frame it is, I grew up watching cartoons and rated R movies. So cartoons is one thing for children. Rated R movies is different things. So stuff like Pulp Fiction, I shouldn't be watching that as a kid. Like, they're complex concepts and ideas and pieces of reality that children shouldn't be exposed to at a certain age, especially without parental advisory or parental guidance. But I was exposed to a lot of that stuff. Like, I remember I remember going to see he got Spike Lee's He Got Game with my family. And if you've ever seen that movie, there's a lot happening in that movie. And it's good because it's telling a story of a young man who is getting ready to go to college or go into professional basketball, and he's kind of wrestling with a lot of different things, wrestling with what's going to come with this aspect of life, what's going to happen when I go here, and what I'm going to do there. And it's showing you all of these elements that he has to wrestle with and he may be exposed to. And so, yeah, like, some of it was sex, drugs, alcohol, and all that stuff. And so I'm sitting there, and if you've ever been to the movie with your parents and like a sex scene comes up or whatever, they try to cover your eyes, but you can still hear everything. Or if like they try to cover your eyes and like they're still watching, they're putting their hands up and you can see through their hands. So it's like, okay, I, I'm being exposed to this, and now like my mind is blown, and it's not good. It's not good. So yeah, cartoons and rated R movies, and I think that warped my reality and my experience and how to deal with people and how to look at the world. And then lastly, I think I found out that there are a lot of bad people in the world. And so with all those things, I think out of fear, you just kind of close off, you put your guard up, and you just leave it up. And so everything becomes suspect. Almost everyone becomes suspect. And I think it got, excuse me, for me, it got worse after college. Um, Thank you to the internet, because I started getting more and more exposed to, I guess people would say, like, conspiracy theories, which at this point, maybe for a lot of people, it's less theory and more reality of the craziness that's in the world, and that there are people who really do want to cause us as humans, and more specifically as Black people, harm. And so it's just like, no, I don't trust this. And like I shared in another stream, like, realizing that life becomes more serious, and I don't it wasn't intentional, but I think it just happened that I just became more cynical and distrusting of people. And so the definition of cynical is distrusting or disparaging the motives of others, showing contempt for accepted standards of honesty or morality by one's actions, especially by actions that exploit the scruples of others, bitterly or sneeringly distrustful, contemptuous, pessimistic. I think if anything, I really wrestle with the pessimistic part. I don't know if I hold anybody in contempt in regards to relationships or how I navigate stuff, but I'm definitely very pessimistic, and it weighs heavy on me, and I know it impacts my relationships. And so, what do I do about that? What how do we deal with that? um, two things. The first thing is learning how to loosen up, which is easier said than done. Learning how to, I don't have any hair, but learning how to let your hair down and be comfortable enough to again be transparent, to be authentic, and to not be on guard. Like one thing that my dad always tells me whenever like I go to work or I travel or anything is like always keep your head on a swivel, which is true, and it's something that I do continue to do. The hard part for me in trying to deal with cynicism and to try to loosen up is finding that balance. Like, no, I don't think the opposite of cynicism or being a cynic is gullibility and just open everything. No, I don't think that's the healthy alternative. You have to find this balance of like awareness and also being relaxed. And so I think loosening up and like, you know, I don't have to be on high alert all the time. I don't have to think everybody's evil all the time. Those things may be true, but I guess you can give like a suspended belief, benefit of the doubt kind of thing to be like, all right, this is another brand new day of life, and tomorrow will be too. So let's take a deep breath and just do our best to just live and not to be on guard. Loosen up and know that life is for the living. It's to be enjoyed. And that leads into the second thing is to be more optimistic. Like, even if things do turn left, even if things get crazy or you find out stuff really is suspect, or you find out somebody isn't trustworthy, things can ultimately still work out. But you have to look for the silver lining. You have to stay optimistic. You have to loosen up and be optimistic that today is going to be a good day, regardless of the evils of the world, regardless if there are people who are that you shouldn't trust, or that there are people who may cause you harm. Know that at the end, it's still going to be all right because you can heal, you can grow, you can develop, and you can learn from those experiences. Again, it's easier said than done, but that's something that I'm constantly trying to remind myself. So you got to learn how to loosen up, and you have to be more optimistic about this life. Again, life is for the living. We are here for glory, for good, and for joy. We're here to accomplish amazing and great things, to serve others, and to experience joy that lines up with our purpose and calling in our individual lives. And so we got to work on not being so cynical. If you wrestle with cynicism like I do, you got to work on that, because the people around us need us to be less guarded. They want us to be more open, kind, not contemptuous, not so pessimistic, loving and supportive and present, and not always being doom and gloom. And I think it's real easy to do, especially as men, like not trusting everybody, always being on guard, got your back to the wall. When you're in a restaurant, kind of like looking around, you can find that balance of like, I'm aware of what's going on, but I'm also enjoying the moment. And I'm also showing up with goodness and kindness and love and light to be of good to other people. So I don't know. If you wrestle with cynicism, tell me how you deal with it. Like, how do you calm it down? How do you avoid it? How do you navigate it? Or even if you recognize it in your life, let me know in the comments. I appreciate it. Again, as we wrap up this episode, Black man, you're called for more than mediocre living. You're here for a purpose, to live for glory and for the good of others, and for the joy that is set for you specifically on your journey. Let's do the work and keep choosing to become beneficial for our community. I believe in you, Black man. I believe in you. Continue to grow, Find time for an emotional release valve, protect your mental, and keep striving to become beneficial. And I believe in you. Keep doing the work. It's worth it. It may not seem like it, but it's worth it. I'll talk to y'all next time. Peace.